Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And yes, the title is correct. Zhao is getting a buff, and submarines are getting a pretty decently sized nerf. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. Link to both DevBlogs will be in the description down below. Any relevant images, artwork, graphics, whatever, will be placed upon screen for your viewing pleasure. So let's go ahead and go in the order of their release. So getting started with the first devblog. Public Test 1010 balance changes. As was previously announced, there will be balancing changes made to Petropavlovsk, Zhao, FDR, and Update 1010. These small changes are required in order to carefully adjust the balance of these warships. Further changes may follow in future updates, should they be required. Soon we will surely share more information about the reasons for changes to particular ships in a separate publication. Besides, in the first half of November, we will also release a video where we will provide more detailed information on how we work on ship's balance. That'll be interesting to see. Alright, so right off the bat, Zhao, number of hit points increased from 40,800 to 42,800. FDR, number of hit points in attack aircraft reduced from 3,200 to 3,040. Number of hit points on dive bombers reduced from 3,710 to 3,525. Number of hit points on torpedo bombers reduced from 3,690 to 3,505. Stalingrad, main battery reload time increased from 20 to 21 seconds. Petropavlovsk, main battery reload time increased from 13.5 to 14 seconds. Kodvoisky, main battery reload time decreased from 10 to 9.5 seconds. Buffalo, main battery reload time decreased from 12 to 11.5 seconds. Sinop, maximum AP shell damage decreased from 12,950 to 12,500. Z-44, detectability range by sea decreased from 7.8 to 7.5 kilometers. Other detectability ranges were changed accordingly. Yuyang, torpedo tubes reload time reduced from 139 to 129 seconds. Marco Polo, sigma parameters increased from 1.8 to 1.9. Monarch, main battery firing range increased from 17 to 17.5 kilometers. Maximum firing range of main battery guns with gunfire control system mount increased from 18.7 to 19.2 kilometers. Then at the bottom, they increased the firing range of several ships. They're a bunch of tier 5 and some tier 6 ships, but no secondary ships, so no big deal there. Alright, so these changes. So right off the bat, not the Stalingrad, I'll get to him in a second, to her in a second. The Zhao. So before everyone goes, but Sealord, it's only 2,000 HP. Yes, if you haven't noticed, over the past, well, since the CV rework, the changes made to ships are very small and incremental, and I think that's for the best because it's better to slowly tune a ship up or down in a certain aspect rather than have these big ol' sweeping changes at once. Now, if you remember, back to the CV rework, they were doing these big sweeping changes at once. So literally from hotfix to hotfix, we would go from CVs being hand of God to a small annoyance, and it kept going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until finally they got them in the right place. So small incremental changes are just a lot better for overall game balance during these changes. Like with the Thunderer, they decreased her range slowly but surely to dial her in properly rather than just slamming her down to, losing 4 or 5 kilometers, how many kilometers of range she lost all at once. That would have been rough rather than just dialing her in correctly and then having to buff her afterwards. And I believe the same thing's happening here with the Zhao. FDR, overall the planes lost around 150, 60-ish HP per plane. She still has an absolutely absurd amount of health in her flights. But the thing about the FDR is that this is a steel ship, and with any steel ship, changes made after they've been purchased with steel hurt a lot. It should have been obvious, again, with ships like the FDR, how bonkers the ship was going to be once she was fully released. So we shouldn't have to be seeing these changes afterwards. But overall, I do think the changes were needed for the FDR. And it seems that the first round of nerfs didn't really affect her too much at all, with the slight change to the torpedo dispersion and the slight nerf to the bombers. I'm sure this ship is still going to be pretty darn powerful, as nutty as this ship is. Now, Stalingrad. This is very strange that Stalingrad, of all ships, is getting another nerf this long after her release. And I don't really understand why. If something was crazy busted with Stalingrad, it should have been more than evident quite some time ago rather than right now. Now, I get why they nerfed her radar duration time because of the commander rework. You could have, I think, like a frickin' almost 30-second Stalingrad radar, or over 30-second Stalingrad radar, which is frickin' nuts. But the nerf to the reload time, okay, we'll see where this goes. Not like it's going to affect the way the guns perform. And, Stalingrad's thing is a mid to long range sniper, and it's still quite good with that, even if you nerf its reload by 1 second. Alright, the Petropavlos. So, her reload time got nerfed too, by half a second, up to 14 seconds now. That's not the problem with the ship. The problem with the ship is that it's a cockroach. It's so freaking hard to kill because of how low it sits in the waterline. A better change would have been to remove some of her HP rather than increase the reload time of the guns. The guns of the Petro are not her main feature, because outside of 12 kilometers, good luck hitting anything. Now, within 12 kilometers, yeah, they hit like a freaking truck, and that may be why they're doing that, but I don't think that's the main problem the community has with the Petro. Is that it's so freaking hard to kill. So yeah, other than that, the Marco Polo, that's a very welcome change for me. Marco Polo is a very rough ship to play right now, because she is, if you guys don't know, she's a Italian battleship. She has 9 16-inch guns, but she fires sap, and her Sigma and her dispersion is, well, her dispersion is quite garbage. Her Sigma being buffed to 1.9 now, I think will help with that quite a lot, because when you had Deadeye in the game, Deadeye Marco Polo was actually pretty decent, because you could normally get 2, maybe 3 shells to land on a target, and 3 16-inch sap shells landing on one target's like freaking 16 or 20k off of that target. So maybe now with a 1.9 Sigma, that'll be a bit better too, and you might have a reason to take the Marco Polo out over the new Marco Polo coming out, the Verdi. The Monarch, welcome buffs to the Monarch. Monarch's considered by many to be the worst Tier 8 tech line battleship. The range increase is very much welcome. 19.2 kilometers now with the mod is very, very, very nice for a Tier 8 battleship. Alright, so that's what I think about these changes. Again, Zal, welcome changes. That definitely needs it. I'm sure you'll see many a moment in the background footage right now where an extra bit of health would definitely help me out quite a bit. I mean, shoot, the armor layout on the Zal is so wonky. You just see citadels, it seems, from every angle, from everything. But anyway, now moving on to the really big news, submarines. So, this devblog, I read this while I was at work, and I'm surprised they're making changes this big to the subs rather than adjusting. And the big news is, of course, what's happening to the torpedoes. Rather than just, like adjusting the damage value of the torpedoes, they've gone in completely redone how they work almost. Besides, of course, the homing aspect. Well, actually, that did. Well, let me just read the devblog. I don't want to spoil it. All right, submarines. 2 weeks of random battles testing. Greeting, captains. It's been 2 intense weeks, you could say that, since submarines entered random battles, and we're eager to discuss your feedback and how we plan to address it. The changes described below is scheduled to be released in the next big update, 10.10. Please note, all information devblog that you out a preliminary website. Alright, homing torpedoes rework. You're hearing that right. We're getting a rework before the line's even fully released. The only proper armament a submarine has access to is a few torpedo launchers. Due to this natural limitation to the type, the ability to use sonar pings to activate torpedo homing was implemented to help build an interesting and unique type of gameplay revolving around this one avenue of attack. However, your feedback clearly indicates that right now, subs torpedoes feel too powerful, efficient, and easy to use. That is very true. Many of you highlighted that a submarine receives too many advantages off of the proper use of sonar pings, both enhanced homing and increased damage, and that this makes the interaction on the receiving end quite painful. I guess that's proper English, but that don't flow too well. Yes, the receiving end of the homing torps are quite painful. To address this issue while also preserving the unique gameplay we've built for submarines, we've reworked their torpedoes, splitting them into two types that will receive different bonuses from their use in conjunction with sonar pings. The first type are homing torpedoes. Their maneuverability will be reduced, and the distance at which they stop homing on destroyers and cruisers will be increased twofold. That's great. The rest of the parameters and mechanics of these torpedoes remain similar to the current ones on the live server. The first ping activates homing, the second ping improves it, but doesn't make it better than how it is now in the main server. However, the successfully sonar ping torpedoes no longer received any bonus to their damage. Now, they don't say this, I think, in the rest of the article, but I want to know, does this mean they no longer Citadel? If they no longer Citadel, this is amazing. This is exactly, I think, what needed to happen to the torpedoes. If they don't get the increased damage anymore, like they don't, and the thing is, they get their increased damage through three ways. When you have the double ping right now, it ignores torpedo protection and you get Citadel hits. And then you can have the commander skill where when you have the double ping, it increases the damage that the torpedoes do by 15%. So I would like to know, some clarification. Does this mean they still Citadel, or do they not Citadel and they don't ignore torpedo protection now, and that's how they do reduce damage? In that case, that's a massive step in the right direction. The second type are torpedoes with a magnetic detonator. Their base damage is somewhat higher than that of homing torpedoes. The first ping reduced the torpedo's detectability by 25%. The second ping doubles their damage if they hit the torpedo. If they hit the torpedo protection. These torpedoes can potentially deal a lot of damage, but they do not have any horizontal homing at all. When the ping effect is active, they can only ascend or descend to match the level of the target. Okay. All submarines will have access to homing torpedoes, while only tiers 8 and 10 will also have the option of loading proximity fuse torpedoes. It is important to remember that anti-torpedo protection coefficient reduces the damage of these torpedoes, as well as the ones we currently have on the live server. Okay. Switching between the two types of torpedoes will be handled similarly to the Super Destroyer Yamagiri. It will take some time to switch, and the current torpedo reload will be suspended in the process. For example, if you have 6 torps out of the 8 loaded, and you have 20 seconds left for full reload, after switching from homing to proximity fuse, you have 6 proximity fuse torpedoes ready, and still 20 seconds until the remaining 2 are loaded. So roughly speaking, the change will introduce a choice for a submarine captain between homing and high damage. It should make the interactions on the receiving end much less punishing. By the way, further on in 10.11, we plan to introduce torpedo aim for underwater states, which will make aiming torpedoes underwater more convenient. Okay, so that right there. So these torpedoes, they have to go through torpedo protection, but the magnetic detonator torpedoes now, they aren't guided. So they're guided in terms of their verticality. So if you're at 24 meters underwater, you launch them, get a double ping on a target, they will ascend to the proper depth for that target, if it's a submarine or if it's a ship on the surface. So they don't have any horizontal homing whatsoever. That's huge. That is very huge. And you have to pick between the two armaments too. So it's not like you have one type of torpedo loaded up and then you can go right ahead and hit like 3 and have the next type of torpedo loaded up. It's like I said, the Yamagiri, you have to select between the two of them. They have to be loaded into the tubes. So I think that's very, very, very good now. And I do agree that it will cut back on a lot of the frustration. Now, the homing torps. So first off, they do less damage now, because they're not, the double ping torps, they can Citadel you, and their maneuverability is being reduced, and the distance that the homing stops on DDs and cruisers being increased by a factor of 2 is huge. So now DDs and cruisers, they will have around a kilometer and a half to dodge these torpedoes. So that's going to help relieve the damage con issue, where damage con is like the only way you have to avoid the current homing torpedoes if you get double pinged in a DD or a cruiser, and the maneuverability is being reduced too. So by how much, they don't say here. We'll just have to wait and see. how this happens when 1010 goes live. But right now, the homing again on DDs and cruisers, I'm sure many of you have been on the receiving end of it. It's massive, and it's a big issue, and I'm glad that's being addressed here. So some much needed nerfs coming to Submarines here, especially with their torpedoes. All right, the rest of the sub dev blog. Submarine spotting underwater. On top of dealing precise damage, subs can also spot surface ships relatively well from underwater. We decided that in the current implementation it is too much, and that spotting from underwater should be nerfed. Therefore, the base detectability of all surface ships from underwater will be 2 kilometers, so that's just assured detection range. And will be substituted with the proximity detection mechanic in one of the future updates. Thus, submarines will no longer be able to spot efficiently while remaining relatively invulnerable. That's a good change. You're under the water. You shouldn't be able to see anything. Now, proximity detection range, that's just how the game works. You get within 2 kilometers of a target. You're going to spot them no matter what they are. That's the mechanic that's been in the game since launch. Depth switching abuse. Not a very frequent but still rather frustrating trick that we've noticed is the ability for subs to switch depths quickly between surface and periscope depth. Allowed some players to reduce their concealment while not spending their battery charged because the sub's detectability started to change immediately when a depth change is ordered. We don't believe such tactics are healthy for gameplay, so this trick will be patched out. Detectability changes will occur when a sub reaches periscope and maximum depth. So if you didn't notice when you go to your depth, your concealment changes, I think, like instantly. So now that's not going to be possible any longer. You're probably going to have to get to the depth first, and then the detection will change. Hydroacoustic search at maximum depth. One of the main gameplay aspects of submarines is the ability to hide at maximum depth. While being there, submarines can't see much and can't do much, which balances the advantages of hiding. For this reason, we want to keep this mechanic as is, so we don't plan on changing hydroacoustic search so that it can detect submarines at maximum depth. Please note that it still detects them at all other depths. So maximum depth, that's when you go down to 80 meters or 100 meters, depending upon what tier you're at, and you really can't do anything down there. You can't see anything. You can still be detected by these other submarines, hydro, and you can detect them by their hydro, but that's about all you can do. You don't even get spotting information down there, so I understand why they don't want to really change that. Hydro not spotting them at that depth, I would think maybe if the ship is like right on top of them, they should still be detected by hydro, because like if you're hiding at 80 meters or 105 meters, but there's still a ship right on top of you, you should still be detected in my opinion, so I don't agree with that. Submarine's popularity. Even though subs efficiency didn't change much since the previous test, right now the popularity in random battles is a bit higher than we anticipate. Up to 10% of games on tier 10 are played on subs. Go figure, a class where you can just ping a ship twice and nuke them off the map, they're going to be pretty popular. As shown above, following your feedback and results of the test, we've already changed the mechanics for the new ship type, and we intend to continue working on it. As a consequence, these changes might also affect subs' presence in battles and their popularity over time. Moving forward, even though these changes quite noticeably affect their gameplay, there are still many sub-related mechanics which have not been touched. In order to test the new ship type as well as possible and to decide what further changes may be needed, we will need to carry out more testing. So even with the changes planned for 1010, we will continue to test the current iteration of subs. The battles played before the release of 1010 and all the feedback on them are still important. We're pretty sure these changes are not the last you will see, but right now these are the changes we're implementing, and soon you'll be able to try them out. We'll keep you updated and share news as soon as we're here, as we have more plans to share. Thank you for battles you played. Your feedback and the results help us forge the new ship type, make playing subs and against them more interesting. Alright, so overall, I think there's some very good changes coming from this dev blog. They still don't address the ping spamming, and we'll see how this goes, but I think with the inability of the torpedoes that can actually nuke the crap out of you, they can no longer home with that now. I think this will be a huge step in the right direction for balancing subs. It's interesting the solutions they come up for with this. Because they could have simply either reintroduced the pinging detection mechanic of the old submarine test, where as you continue to ping, your detection range increased, or they could have just removed the citadel damage from the torps or reduced their damage, but introducing this whole new type of torpedo that doesn't home now. But if you get the double ping, you get citadel damage if it hits the torpedo protection. Not citadel damage, you get double the damage if it hits the torpedo protection. I think that's, again, a massive step in the right direction, and I can't really say too much more on it until we get to try it out for ourselves and play it, because, you know, we can look at this all day, look at the stats and stuff all day, but until you get your hands on them and really try them out, it's hard to say, is this going to be balanced, is this not going to be balanced? So we'll see how this goes. So guys, let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about these changes? Do you think they're good? Do you think they're bad? What else do you want to see change with submarines? I know there's going to be a whole lot of, we don't want them in the game, but fact is, they're more than likely going to come out no matter what we say about that, so they're here to stay either way. Anyway guys, let me know what you guys think about that below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 30 subs. We just passed 29,300 the other day, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. I hope you guys will come out tonight for the live stream right here on the channel and on Twitch from 5 p.m. U.S. Central until 8 p.m. U.S. Central time tonight. Again, that's right here on the channel and on Twitch. Hope to see you guys there. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.